I present to you my top 10 Four Horsemen Studios action figures of 2024. I am in a very unique position where I have purchased every single Four Horsemen action figure this year, and it is my favorite line, and so I am dedicating an entire top 10 list, just like I did last year, to Four Horsemen Studios figures, which includes Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, Figura Obscura, and then they have a few special releases, which I'm including in here as well. All of these figures are on their Legions build system. They're all compatible. It's all, to me, one big happy line of action figures. And eventually the Infinite Legions will be included in this as well, and so on. So all Four Horsemen figures that were released in 2024 are included. The only thing I didn't include was the armory experience, which just gets too convoluted when it's very subjective and everybody's build is different. You know, I do have favorites of my builds, but people built different things. So I'm going to wait on the armory experience figures and include them next year when they do the 10 builds that they're going to actually release as action figure, like built action figures, rather than, try to include a build your own system thing in this list. So those are left off, but that's it. Everything else is included. What I did was I chose my top 10. Like I just chose my 10 favorite initially. So there was kind of like 2 rounds of this process for me. I just think it's a little more interesting to kind of use categories. So this is how I did it. I just picked my 10 favorite. I decided which 10 would I want to keep. If I had to throw away everything but 10 figures, which 10 would I keep? And that created my top 10, but it didn't create the order in which those top 10 are. So I might have chosen something as a favorite, but I decided instead to use categories and then rank them within those categories. I did 5 categories and then ranked them within those categories and used a point system to tally them up. And then that determined the order of my top 10. So to start off with the categories, we have 5 categories here. First off is the look, which is purely visual. This is nothing to do with the build quality or the articulation or any of that stuff. It's purely the look, the sculpture and the paint. The accessories can play a factor because it impacts the look, but it really is about just the visuals and how they look on the shelf. Shelf presence kind of is like another way to look at that. So that is category number 1. Category number 2 is bang for your buck. Now, last year I included the category of pop and swap, but there's another category here that it just overlapped with so much that I ended up eliminating pop and swap and it gets rolled up into something else. So I'm bringing bang for your buck in, which was a little tricky because they're all, usually really good value. And one of the problems with the bang for your buck situation was that probably half of these I bought as a direct pre-order, and the value is just always so much better when you buy direct pre-order because like a $50 figure is $37. So that my top 5 are like direct pre-orders and my bottom 5 are ones I had to pay retail price for. So like retailer exclusives and stuff. Anyway, so that is bang for your buck. It's just purely how I feel, like how much I paid and how much I got. Value. The next one is hand candy. This includes popping and swapping and potential for popping and swapping and how fun it is to pull it apart and mix it with other figures, but also how fun it is to pose, how easy it is to manipulate, how nicely put together it is, how good the plastic feels. It's just got that that hand feel kind of thing added in there. So really one of my favorite categories is hand candy, just because I love messing around with, playing around with my action figures and posing them and popping, swapping and like mixing and matching and all that stuff. So that's hand candy. And then the 4th category is lore and character. This is the story behind the character, any sort of bio that comes with it. The Figura Obscuras obviously end up being very high on this one because they are wrapped up in excellent story. There's amazing storytelling on the packaging, and there's they come with literature, so there's just like a lot more fleshed out kind of stuff with the figuras. So they end up being high on that list. So that's lore, character. And then the final one is just the intangible wow factor. And I don't really have a way to define it other than just kind of everything, how it all comes together as a figure that I just want to have in my collection, and just how awesome it is. Maybe it's sort of, like a little bit of that shelf presence, even though that's the look, but it's also how it feels. It's just kind of like everything put together into one big category. So if I were probably going to just like simply rank my favorites, it would probably be pretty close to the wow factor. Anyway, those are my 5 categories. And then within each category, there's 10 possible points. There's 10 possible scores. First place gets 10 points, second place gets 9 points, third place gets 8 points, and so on down the line until 10th place, which gets a single point. And then I add up their 5 scores. Each figure has a score for each category. I add those all up. Then I rank them in order of those scores. So let's get into the first figure. Number 10 on my list is Fisher Rice, which is way up there in the hand candy category. This figure is amazing to handle. It feels really good in hand. It is so much fun to pop and swap. It comes with pop and swap stuff right out of the box. It's got extra arms and extra legs. It's a ton of fun. And it is just, it's one of those things where, a lot of people might recommend a builder pack or like one of those kind of like deluxe packs or something. But this is basically one of those. This is one of those packs where you can buy it and just immediately start having fun without owning any other Mythic Legions figures. I honestly think this would be an excellent first figure for anybody getting into Cosmic Legions. And the only reason why it scored lower on some of these other ones is just because of the company it's in within these top 10. Like, it is a strikingly beautiful figure. The paint job is phenomenal. It's one of the coolest paint jobs I've seen in Cosmic. It's just like a lot of reuse and stuff. But and then also, bang for your buck, like I said, it wasn't a direct pre-order, so it has that like little added price at the retail price. And again, wow factor, it's sort of, again, it's been done before. There's nothing really new going on here per se, but it is a really cool figure. And the being number 9 on all these various categories across these 10 is really being number 9 across all these 30 figures. Next at number 9 is the Figura Obscura Ghost of Christmas Past. Again, another phenomenal figure, just kind of where it landed. I'm actually a little surprised that it landed as low as it did. Lore and character, I mean, you can't beat a great classic piece of literature like that. So it scored very high there. And that includes a lot of the packaging and the storytelling that the Horsemen do with the entire product and the booklet and the artwork and all that stuff. So that's all wrapped up in that very high lore character score. The other thing it scored pretty high on is the look. This is just a really striking figure. This turnaround doesn't quite do it justice, but if you shine some light through those sheer cloth goods, like, this thing looks like a ghost. And it's got the arms, and it almost feels like it's like flickering. Just did a whole review. You can kind of go watch all that, but this is an awesome figure, and it is my number 9. At number 8 with 22 points is the Cosmic Legions Tusk Pilot, fairly similar to Fisher Rice in its build and system. And this figure scored pretty high on the bang for your buck category because this was a direct pre-order for $37. You just cannot beat that. And at the wow factor as well. I mean, just seeing that red paint job and getting that in hand initially was pretty amazing. Like, this is a very cool paint job. And the black paint job on Fisher Rice is kind of similar, but because it's super glossy, but seeing it in red is just a whole nother level. So this figure scored high for those. Not great on the lore and the character. There's not a ton of story there to be had, although they did have some cool narratives. But those narratives were like kind of overarching story. It wasn't a lot like super specific about the individual characters. But anyway, so we have the Tusk Pilot at number 8. Number 7 on the list with 23 points is the Gaspar Gorich 2-pack from Legions Con 2024. This set is pure hand candy. This set is so much fun. Tons of pop and swap action. The cloth goods feel great. This new bare upper torso and bare arms, it feels really nice. Just everything about this set feels great. It's just a lot of fun to play around with. The lore and the characters are just, I put them up fairly high because it's just hilarious. Chris and George, just two awesome guys, and just a hilarious way of like naming the characters after them. Very, very cool stuff. And the only reason why it probably wouldn't be higher is because of the wow factor. It being, a con exclusive, they tend to be pure repaints and reuse and stuff. Clever reuse, and it's great stuff, but it just doesn't quite have that same wow factor as like Frankenstein's creature dropping in on you and it's just like 100% new. It's just like kind of like mind blowing when you get something like that. But this set's awesome. Highly recommend it. I think you can still get it for a decent price. So if you're on the hunt for some cool mythic figures, this set's amazing. At number 6 with 24 points, we have the Skeleton Legion Builder 2 that was a surprise drop, and that kind of like bumps it up a little bit on the wow factor. But it is a basic skeleton. There's not a lot of like, oh my god, like it's pretty straightforward figure when it comes down to it. Where this thing shines is value and hand candy. Bang for your buck and hand candy. This figure was a builder price, $26, I think it was. Incredible price for this figure. And hand candy numero uno. This figure, it doesn't even need pop and swap in, which it excels at. It's so much fun popping and swapping, but you don't even need to factor that in. And this figure is an absolute blast to play around with, to pose, to take photographs of, to just hold in your hand and mess around with it. It is awesome. And I know this figure sold out, but they have that 4-pack that's currently up, and those are $25 each. It's $100, $25 each. The value on that is pretty much even better than this. So I highly recommend grabbing that 4-pack while it's still available. And that's shipping pretty soon. I think it's shipping in Q1 of 2025. So this figure is amazing. Didn't quite get up there because, again, the look, it's basic, right? It's a very basic look. It's just a skeleton, and the lore and the character, like a couple things bring it down in terms of like when you rank it against all those others, like it's just kind of like it drops down to 10 among those other things that have like these amazing, beautiful colors and sculptures and all that stuff. So still amazing all around figure. Grab it while you can. Here's another one that I thought would be a little bit higher. The Anubis and Bastet 2-pack. Ranking number 5 with 27 points. This set is really quite incredible. Like there's so much new stuff going on in this set. It's got some cool accessories. A couple things that brought it down was there's a little fragility. Like I broke the one of those like pieces on that altar. One of those like carrier arm things, it kind of snapped off, and just a little fragility there, and then some finickiness and stuff like that. But this set's amazing, and it was like right up there on lore and character. Like I said, the figuras are just kind of going to be high on lore and characters. How can you go wrong with classic mythology? At number 4, which is one that might have been higher, it might have been like in contention for number 1. I love this figure. This feels like a Figura Obscura type character, right? And it kind of hits really high on a lot of things, except it doesn't hit high on hand candy, unfortunately, which is probably my favorite category. The thing is, it's very finicky. The way the legs are assembled is cool because they're using ball joints at the hips now with these, but it tends to pop off very easily. The hands are a little loose. Like things about this figure can get pretty finicky, and there's a lot of moving parts and stuff. But when it comes down to the look and the wow factor, like just the overall just experience of this figure, just having a genie in the collection like this, it just is pretty mind blowing. It kind of like fits exactly in my head of like what I would want a genie to look like. But anyway, this figure is amazing. It is my number 4 of 2024, Kalazir the Jinn. Getting into the top 3, at number 3, we have the Ninian Infantry with 33 points. This one was a table drop at LegionsCon 2024. So that kind of like boosts up that wow factor, because that is just an experience to have when that thing's going around the convention and people are starting to realize it's there and then running over to grab one and cracking it open. It comes with a ton of stuff. Like, it is a loaded figure. And even though like convention exclusive prices are high, the convention table price for this was $40, which is pretty close to the pre-order price if you were to have it as a direct pre-order, and it's probably going to be $40 or $37 when they do release it early 2025. So if you're like looking for this figure, don't go buy an aftermarket. Be ready and just pay attention to Four Horsemen, because they're going to release this online. The supply will probably be limited, but you know, it's one of those things. If you get there, you can get one. This is awesome. Bang for your buck. Super high. Hand candy. Amazing figure to pose around and to swap out heads and parts and stuff. But Ninian Infantry, number 3. Next up, I thought this one was going to be number 1. When I was tallying it up, I really thought this was going to take the cake, but something actually beat it out. And this is number 2, Frankenstein's Creature. They absolutely went all out with this figure. From the multiple looks to the crazy accessories, you have the table, you have the lab gear, you have all sorts of stuff going on with this figure. There's a mixture of cloth goods and plastic clothing, which I know might turn some people off, but I think it works really well. There's just a lot of clever stuff going on. And just like everything about this figure is brand new. This figure blew me away. You can go with like a more book look like this, or you can go with a more almost Universal Monsters kind of look. You can have him on the table. You can have him reading books that he comes with books and stuff. Like, the figure is absolutely incredible. And I'm a little shocked that it wasn't my number 1. Which brings us to numero uno, Arachagor. This figure is incredible. And it is deserving, even though I didn't expect it to be my number 1 when I just like picked my 10 like that. Like, it is absolutely deserving of that position. This figure is primarily about the sculpt in the paint. The look is just amazing. It just has such a crazy good sculpture. And I know it's a repeat of figures that were released last year, right? Like, it's essentially a Scourge figure. But something about this paint job elevated this figure, and it made me notice this figure for the first time, really, like this sculpt and stuff for the first time. It just is, it's crazy. It's got like this shimmery kind of color to it. And not only that, but this thing is pretty darn good hand candy. It's obviously not a ton of pop and swap ability, but it's a lot of fun to pose. It actually has that upper torso articulation, which really changes the game for ogre scale figures. So this figure is awesome. Arachagor, number 1, amazing work for Horsemen Studios on the 2024 library of action figures. Keep it up. I cannot wait for 2025. We've got a full-on dragon coming, at least the pre-order for it in 2025. We've got Necronominus Wave coming up. So much good stuff coming in 2025. Anyway, thanks for watching my video, and until next time, may the Force be with you.